camera, who this? Okay, the mystery box. What is it? It's where J.J. Abrams hides his excuses for not planning out his projects. I'm kidding, well, kinda. The mystery box is infinite possibility. It's a very simple formula in media. You set up this web of interesting and compelling questions, and you draw in your audience based on what the potential answers for those questions could be. But here's the thing. You don't even know what the answers to those questions are yet. Like, J.J. Abrams is notorious for doing this. Like, imagine being the guy who came up with the alphabet. You know it begins with A, B, and C. You might know that it ends with X, Y, and Z, but everything in between that? Mystery box. Figure it out. That, in a nutshell, is the mystery box formula, or rather, the mystery box curse. And I call it that because more often than not, when you look at some of the projects that J.J. Abrams has worked on, these things are not well mapped out at all. Let's look at the Star Wars sequel trilogy, the Cloverfield trilogy, if you can even call it one, and to a lesser degree, let's look at Lost. 3 properties that have all fallen victim to the mystery box curse. Okay, I know I said I was done complaining about Star Wars because God knows there's enough of that going on, but I got one more in me, so just let me get it out of my system. Despite what anyone says, the sequels were obviously not planned out. JJ directed episode 7 before promptly leaving the franchise in the hands of Rian Johnson for episode 8 without so much as a roadmap in terms of story direction, allowing Johnson to make some decisions that definitely wouldn't be bitched about for the next 5 years, and then returning once again to helm episode 9 after Colin Trevorrow was fired by Disney. The dysfunctional and disjointed vibes of the sequels can really all be traced back to J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy's complete lack of planning, leading each movie to essentially try to retcon the previous one. And then there's whatever's going on in the Cloverfield universe produced by Abrams' production company, Bad Robot. As someone who actually enjoyed 10 Cloverfield Lane as an isolated experience, I cannot begin to tell you what this movie has to do with the original or third entries in the franchise. Aside from some very, and I mean very, loose connections, the mystery box formula has left Cloverfield feeling less like a thought-out cinematic universe and more like a bunch of movies that got the Clover label thrown on them after the fact. Even Overlord was rumored to be a part of the franchise at one point, but I guess someone at Bad Robot with some sense spoke up and Abrams wisely thought better of it. There's an extremely dedicated online community of theorists who do some great work trying to connect these movies, and I've admittedly fallen down that rabbit hole before, but until we get some concrete answers, it's basically all conjecture. And I won't put what happened with Lost completely on Abrams, but considering how off the rails the show became over time, combined with the fact that he was the co-creator and an executive producer during the show's flagship season, I think he deserves at least some of the blame. Because he was tied up with Alias and Mission Impossible 3, he wasn't able to fully commit to Lost and left the show in the hands of Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse without leaving them any answers to the bevy of questions set up by the 2-part pilot episode directed and co-written by Abrams himself. I say this as someone who's watched Lost in its entirety multiple times. I can't help but feel like that lack of clarity during the show's foundation resonated throughout its entire run, resulting in the series having a make-it-up-as-you-go kind of style and hurting its overall quality. So we are several minutes into this video, and you may find yourself asking, okay, what does any of that have to do with Yellowjackets? Well, similar to the properties we've talked about, Yellowjackets is seemingly another mystery box curse waiting to happen, seemingly being the key word here. Whether it's due to the inciting event being a plane crash that leaves the principal cast stranded in the middle of nowhere, or the enigmatic nature of its storytelling, Lost serves as both a comparison to and inspiration for Yellowjackets. But the biggest difference between the two is planning and patience. The show was pitched for a total of 5 seasons by creators Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson, having already laid out the major plot points. But as is the nature of TV, The two were ready to be flexible in the event that the show only ends up running for 3 seasons, or even if it gets extended to 7. All of that is ultimately dependent on ratings and audience reception. And when you consider that the show was nominated for 7 Emmys and was picked up for a 2nd season in the middle of its first, I'd say the prognosis was pretty good. The main reasons this show is able to retain its audience's attention is through its mystery, premise, and subsequent unraveling through the use of 2 different timelines, one that takes place in 1996 and the other that takes place in 2021. The 96 timeline follows the titular girls soccer team that gets stranded in the Canadian wilderness after their plane goes down, leaving some of their teammates dead, as well as their coach and plane pilots. What is it with this channel and plane crashes? Jesus Christ. How they learn to survive and cooperate with limited food, water, and shelter is what makes the past iteration of these characters so interesting. They each have baggage that the lack of modern societal conventions allows them to sort out and work through. The pilot episode opens with the girl setting up a death trap for someone and concludes with them stringing up that person and eating them, meaning that at some point, things get bad enough for them to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. What leads to that and what happens during those 19 months of isolation is the premise that the 96 timeline relies on. Now, depending on where you look, there's conflicting information on whether Yellowjackets was inspired by an all-female Lord of the Flies script that was going around, or if Yellowjackets was that very script, but either way, co-creator and showrunner Ashley Lyle wanted to show that young women are just as capable as devolving into savagery and barbarism as young men are when dropped into a survival situation that slowly erodes away their humanity. In the 2021 timeline, we follow 4 core characters we know survived long enough to make it back to civilization. Stay-at-home mom Shauna, political hopeful Thaisa, vengeful burnout Natalie, and oddball nurse Misty. Keeping their contact limited, the 4 have kept quiet about their experiences in the wild for the past 25 years, sticking to the same bland story whenever it's inevitably brought up. But it appears someone knows their secrets, as they all find themselves being blackmailed by an unknown party, compounded with the murder of Natalie's former lover and fellow survivor Travis. The future timeline presents itself as a sort of straightforward whodunit, but the past is more of an exploration into the motivations and mindset of the principal characters. Natalie's rough upbringing has pushed her towards drugs and alcohol, but finds her calling in the wilderness as a sharpshooter who can hunt animals for the group to eat, growing closer with the coach's son Travis in the process as they bond over their trauma. Thaisa is the de facto den mother of the group and naturally asserts herself as a leader in order to keep everyone together. Rarely showing fear or doubt, but in reality is very unsure of her decision making and is often comforted by her love interest Van, a secret romance that has to remain secret due to the still prevalent homophobia of the 1990s. Misty, who to me is far and away the most interesting character, was the team manager but was viewed as more of a mascot than anything. Prior to the crash, she was a social pariah and was often looked down upon by other high schoolers, but similar to Jack in the pilot episode of Lost, Misty quickly takes command of the situation during the initial fallout and uses her knowledge of first aid to help the other survivors. This unfortunately includes amputating the mutilated leg of assistant coach Ben, the only adult who survived the crash, and while being taken care of by Misty, she develops an unhealthy infatuation with him. She overhears some of the girls singing her praises for being so essential to their survival, and for the first time in her life feels useful and wanted, and because she doesn't want to give up that validation, she destroys the plane's emergency transmitter, dooming everyone to whatever fate awaits them in the forest. Sorry, I know I talk about Misty more than anyone else, but she's great, and Christina Ricci was one of my childhood crushes, so, you know, I'm a gas up her character a little bit. Just let me live, y'all. And then there's Shauna, who is probably the closest thing we have to a main character in this show. She has a close bond with her best friend Jackie, but is secretly cheating with Jackie's boyfriend Jeff. There's a clear underlying tension just beneath the surface of their friendship, Between the cheating and lying about what college she got into, even something as mundane as being told what kind of dress to wear pisses Shauna off as she feels trapped underneath the domineering heel of Jackie and lashes out in self-destructive ways, culminating in the eventual reveal that she's pregnant and Jeff is the baby daddy. Initially struggling to find her niche among the group, she eventually realizes that she has a talent for draining and skinning animals and finds a way to contribute and makes herself useful, unlike Jackie. Speaking of Jackie, her refusal to pitch in doesn't really sit well with the other survivors, but her queen bee attitude is emblematic of not only the title, but the overall themes of the show, which is why she's draped all over most of the promotional material. Aside from Nat and Travis, most of the melodrama in the 96 timeline stems from Jackie and her various interactions with the other girls that I've seen people online criticize as very immature or very high school, but they're literally high schoolers, so I don't know exactly what people were expecting. Ella Prunell brings a lot of confidence to the role as your typical perfect popular girl, but at the same time shows just enough vulnerability and insecurity to make her an extremely nuanced character that I feel like even people in the fandom tend to unfairly write off. She's not in the present timeline, so we can make some assumptions about her fate, but she lingers on as a sort of specter in Shauna's life, who obviously still feels guilty about whatever happened to her best friend. Aside from Jackie, there's still one other character who isn't in the present timeline who deserves a mention: Lottie. Lottie starts off as one of the unassuming side characters with very few lines of dialogue and not a whole lot of screen time, but as the series goes on, especially in the latter half, it becomes more and more apparent that a lot of the mystery and potential supernatural element revolves around her. And I say potential because the showrunners never confirm nor deny the existence of the supernatural within Yellowjackets, so it's kind of up in the air for the time being, but I mean, be serious, come on now. As a child, Lottie seems to have some sort of precognitive abilities that are dismissed by her father as schizophrenia and is given medicine to deal with it. But out in the woods, she runs out and starts to have visions that could be premonitions, but could also be due to her lack of medication. The girls decide to have a seance for fun, and things take a hard left turn as Lottie appears to be possessed and starts speaking fluent French despite being notoriously awful at it. She only snaps out of it after the group's resident Christian, Laura Lee, performs a crash course exorcism, which inspires Lottie to get baptized in an attempt to differentiate her visions from reality. Things get less ambiguous when Taissa takes a group out into the woods to find help, and Lottie warns Van about her vision of red smoke and a river of blood, which kinda comes true after they see a river that changed color because of deposits of iron, and Taissa defends Van from a wolf using a flare gun, hence the red smoke. What is it with this channel and wolf attacks? Jesus Christ. Between winter closing in, Van's injury, and the supplies dwindling down, the girls were forced to take desperate measures as they managed to restore a Cessna to working order, and Laura Lee, who's been studying the manual, volunteers to fly it, but it unfortunately catches on fire and explodes. Lottie had a premonition about this very thing during her baptism, and with Laura Lee being the only person who was truly willing to listen to her, this event leaves her at her lowest point, but subsequently causes her to believe in the power of her own visions. With the entire group being on the edge of starvation, they decide to go out with a bang and have the homecoming they never got to attend to celebrate their impending doom. Doomcoming, if you will. Everything seems to be going well until everyone starts to trip due to Misty failing to mention that she accidentally poisoned the food with hallucinogenic mushrooms, causing Lottie to lead everyone to where Travis and Jackie are smooching, stating that he doesn't belong to her. The effects of the shrooms coercing them into participating in this cultish behavior. We don't really see the full extent of that behavior until they get back to the cabin and, Travis manages to break free, and in their warped states of mind, combined with their hunger, they see him as a deer and start to chase him through the woods. After they catch him, Lottie seems to lead some type of killing ritual before it's ultimately broken up by Natalie. The next morning, everyone wakes up in a haze, but before they can reconcile what happened, a bear wanders into the camp. But rather than attacking anyone, it seems to surrender itself to Lottie as a sort of sacrifice so they won't starve. What is it with this channel and bears? I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay, you know what? You get it. You get it. Please go watch my other content. For the love of God. After her own near-death experience, this is enough to convince Van that Lottie is the real deal and that she actually does have some form of power. Neither of them are around in the present, so just like with Jackie, we can make some assumptions. So after they cook up the bear, Lottie leads a prayer thanking the forest spirits or something, which Jackie scoffs at, still pissed that she got locked in the closet after they went nuts the night before. She starts a fight with Shauna after revealing that she knows Jeff is the father of the baby after reading Shauna's journal. Shauna retorts by calling Jackie out on her self-centered attitude, causing Jackie to try to kick Shauna out into the cold, but it blows up in her face when the group pulls a reverse Uno card and kicks her out instead. Despite feeling guilty about that whole interaction and the way it all went down, Shauna goes to sleep that night with Jackie outside, freezing. The very next sequence shows Jackie being invited back into the cabin by Shauna and being welcomed with open arms by the other Yellowjackets, including Laura Lee, and a mysterious man saying they've been waiting for her, which jolts Shauna awake. She runs outside only to discover that it snowed and that Jackie froze to death overnight, leaving Shauna absolutely devastated and reeling from the guilt. And because of how culpable she feels, Jackie's presence looms heavy over Shauna's life even 25 years later. And while we're on the subject of the present timeline, let's jump forward to see what exactly is going on there. But real quick, if you could do me a huge favor and press the like and subscribe buttons for me, it's just a way to help the algorithm gods know to spread this video to as many people as possible. I had a goal of about 500 subs by the time my first year here on YouTube was up, and we are cutting it dangerously close. I know I got to be more consistent with the uploads, but I do want to take a crack at this full time eventually, so any contributions to that will help. But enough shilling for likes. Let's get back to the video. So anyway, it's the 25th anniversary of the Yellowjackets plane crash, and this reporter named Jessica is going around trying to gather information on all the survivors. Shauna is pretty much resigned to being an unfulfilled housewife, is ironically married to Jeff of all people, and they have a teenage daughter together. Not the little forest baby though, this kid's maybe like 16 at most, so the timelines wouldn't match up. Thaisa is running for state senator of New Jersey and has a son with her wife and pretty much has been an all-around success story, making her and Shauna the most well-adjusted survivors. Misty is still her weird self, just looking for acceptance, and is working in a nursing home where she has something of a mean streak with the ladies who aren't particularly nice to her. Travis is living completely off the grid and his whereabouts are unknown for now at least, and Natalie has struggled with substance abuse and anger management since they got back and is just getting out of rehab paid for by Thaisa. However, while she was in recovery, she received a postcard with a mysterious symbol on it, a symbol we'd come to associate with their time in the woods, something only the survivors would know about. And with gun in hand, she pays a visit to suspect number 1, Misty, who swears she isn't the sender but actually received a postcard too. So using her citizen detective skills, she's able to deduce where Travis has been living, and the two of them drive there to see if he knows anything. They piece together where he works and go there, only to discover his dead body hanging from the rafters. It looks like an obvious self-unalivization, but Nat isn't so sure. She has Misty reach out to one of her citizen detective friends and has him hack the police files on Travis. They arrange the pictures and discover that the candles surrounding his body form into the symbol from the woods, meaning that Natalie's hunch was right. Travis was murdered. Meanwhile, over at Shauna's, she's approached by Jessica about giving her an exclusive in regards to what really happened during those 19 months, where she's promptly told to piss off, but Jessica's presence leads Shauna to reach out to Thaisa, worried that someone might be onto them, but Ty waves it off. Later on, Shauna gets into an accident with this guy named Adam, and the two grow close. Really close, in fact, after she discovers that Jeff is cheating on her. They've been having some intimacy issues in their marriage, so she starts an affair with Adam and slowly begins to unravel more and more information about herself as they spend time together. I just know people are like, God damn, Shauna cheated again? But to be fair, in her defense, even though we find out later she was wrong, she had valid reason to believe her husband was cheating on her. And you know, Melanie Linsky liked one of my tweets on Twitter one time, so I'm gonna defend her character with my life. Hashtag Shauna did nothing wrong. Transitioning back to Thaisa, it turns out that she's the one who hired Jessica to see if the other survivors were talking, lest they undermine her political ambitions with the truth. And because she's so focused on her campaign, she's been neglecting her son, who's been lashing out with aggressive tendencies and strange drawings covering his windows, stating that they're to hide him from the lady in the tree outside his bedroom who watches him sleep. Okay, spooky, but gets extra spooky later because it's revealed that the lady in the tree is actually Thaisa herself, who wakes up from a fugue state with a mouthful of dirt, something that Lottie witnessed all those years ago.
Were you outside last night eating dirt? Actual fuck, no. But I can't do crazy right now, Lottie.
Ty has always been the group skeptic to try to keep everybody grounded, as opposed to somebody like Van, who's at least open to the possibility of the supernatural, but even as an adult, she can't deny that there's some weird shit going on, especially when she disassociates like that. Not too long after, both she and Natalie receive a text message alongside a picture of the symbol, threatening to reveal their secrets if they don't bring the sender $50,000. They agree to loop in Shauna, but leave out Misty because nobody really trusts her, and they want to catch this person, thinking that they could be the one who was sending the postcards. They get the drop on the mystery person, and after a botched chase, the blackmailer ends up getting away with the money, much to the irritation of Natalie, who desperately wants revenge for Travis. She's in such a bad headspace that she almost relapses, only to get saved by Misty in just the funniest way possible. Again, Misty is great. So what has my girl been up to? Well, after shadowing Natalie, she watches Jessica watch Nat and delivers a not-so-vague threat to the not-so-legit reporter.
I know when you look at me, you don't see someone you should be afraid of, but you're wrong.
She makes good on that threat by kidnapping Jessica and interrogating her to get down to the bottom of who she really is and who she works for. Jessica caves and tells Misty about Thaisa and that she found out someone emptied Travis's bank accounts right after he died, meaning that whoever did probably killed him. She sees on her hidden camera in Nat's room. Did I mention she put a hidden camera in Nat's room? That Nat is about to relapse and she rushes off to save her friend, which leads us right back here, where she informs Nat about Travis's bank account. Back at Camp Shauna, Adam pulls up to her house while Jeff is away and ends up staying overnight, only to get shoved into the closet when Jeff gets home the next morning. Shauna's daughter Callie finds out about the affair but is hella sus of Adam, thinking he might just be an obsessed fanboy of the Yellowjackets. This causes Shauna to dig into him, but not only does she realize that he lied to her about his past, but that he took the journals from her time in the wilderness out of the safe from the closet he was hiding in, leading her to believe that Adam is the blackmailer. She goes to Adam's apartment to confront him, and despite his insistence that he wasn't responsible, he accidentally triggers Shauna's flashbacks and she stabs him, ultimately killing him. So as the episodes were airing, there was a popular theory that Adam was actually Javi, Travis's little brother, who actually formed a connection with Shauna back in '96, and as far as we know, hasn't been seen since the shrooms incident.
Run.
Some people might find it disappointing, but I like the fact that he didn't end up being the blackmailer or Javi and he was just some guy. Making him a red herring keeps the audience on their toes, so whenever there is one of these big revelations, it's not the most predictable thing it could have been. The showrunners of Yellowjackets definitely understand the power of the mundane and when to use it, which actually elevates this to a whole nother level of mystery box, because I promise you, if this was Lost, they would have made Adam Javi, because that's just the most obvious thing they could have done. That, or they would have pulled something out of their ass, like the whole Jeremy Bentham thing. Like, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen Lost, but if you have, then you know exactly the kind of stupid bullshit I'm talking about. She gets back home and the journals are back in the safe, and Jeff confesses that he was the blackmailer and that he just wanted to extort Ty or Nat for the money and save his failing furniture store from loan sharks. His confession causes Shauna to fess up to the affair and eventual stabbing, which Jeff offers to take the fall for, but rather than doing that, she does the next best thing by gathering up the girls, convincing them that Adam was the blackmailer, and chopping up his body to hide the evidence. Like I said, the next best thing. Nat, of course, isn't quite sold on it, as she already has a woman named Susie looking into who closed Travis's bank accounts, but all signs point to Adam being the culprit, so the trail has effectively gone cold, and maybe Travis really did just take himself off the board. Shauna goes home to her totally normal, not awkward at all family life after successfully covering up a murder. Misty goes back home, and with the mystery supposedly solved, she agrees to let Jessica go, but it's really a fake out because she laced Jessica's cigarettes with fentanyl and ties up that loose end. Say what you want about Misty, but she is a get shit done type of bitch, and I love her for that. Ty ends up winning her election, but at some point or another, she has one of her disassociative episodes and kills the family dog and builds a shrine around its head, much to the dismay of her wife. Sorry, I know I don't talk about Ty a lot, because to me she was the most boring character in the 2021 timeline, but I do think whatever this alter ego is helped push her through the election, even when she wanted to drop out a few times, so who knows how many decisions she's making while she's under the influence of whatever this thing is. With everything wrapped up, Nat tumbles into a depression, and with Travis being the only person she had left to live for, she decides to join him in the afterlife. But suddenly a group of people in robes break in and kidnap her, one of which is wearing the mysterious symbol from the forest. At that very moment, Natalie gets a call from a panicked Susie with an update about Travis and is forced to leave a message asking one foreboding question.
Who the fuck is Lottie Matthews?
Oh my god, Lottie is still alive? Okay, we have to go back. We have to go back, Kate.
We have to go back!
Sometime after Jackie bites the dust, Lottie takes the heart of the bear they killed and places it at the base of this freaky looking tree as an offering to the forest spirits, and flanked by Van and Misty, she says in French,
Versez le sang, mes beaux amis. And let the darkness set us free.
yo, they set up Lottie to be the villain of this show and she started a cult? So those were her people who kidnapped Nat and probably killed Travis? Bro, I cannot wait for season 2. And since the show ended, both adult Lottie and adult Van have both been cast, so Van is alive too? I'm excited, but there's still a lot of burning questions we don't have the answers to. Where's Hobby? What's going on with Ty? Who the hell is this guy? Why did they cast Christina Ricci as the quote-unquote ugly one when she's the most beautiful woman in the show? Christina Ricci, on the off chance you ever see this, my DMs are open. If you ever want to talk or give me spoilers or maybe go out to dinner sometime. Never mind, I just looked it up. She's married. Hey, shoot or shoot though. I'm gonna shoot my shot. So since we're caught up with the plot, let's bust the mystery box open and go over some of my theories so that way after next season, y'all can come back and tell me how right or wrong I was. But it's not gonna be scripted like the rest of this video was, so I'm gonna just start talking off the dome. So Lottie's doom coming cult. Obviously, Misty was always kind of a weirdo, so we're better to join than a cult, especially after the mushroom incident where she was still feeling, you know, ostracized and kind of pushed out. I think that's why she's there. Van is a true believer, so as opposed to Misty, who's just looking for a place of belonging, Van believes in Lottie's power. She believes in whatever she's down to do. After all the shit they've seen, you know, she's down to be a disciple. We know Misty is the only confirmed cannibal, and it stands to reason that Lottie would be the antler queen. And if they're both there, then that means that Van is probably there too, and we've seen her wear that soccer shirt before. The person we saw in episode 1 was draining the person that they ate, Pit Girl. That's Shauna's area of expertise, so that makes sense if she would be there. And if Shauna and Van are both there, then Ty is most likely there too because she trusts them more than anybody, and it would also give a reason to why she's so disgusted by meat in the future, because she was just, oh my god, wow. And it would give a good reason to why she's so disgusted by the sight of meat, because she probably didn't join the cannibals because she wanted to. She joined because the two people she trusted the most were there, and it was more self-preservation kind of thing. So where's everybody else? They definitely ate Ben. Like they absolutely ate him. It wouldn't surprise me if Misty was the one who dealt the killing blow after he lied to her. Or I'm guessing at some point she finds out that he lied to her about, you know, wanting to be with her. Plus he's hobbling around on one leg, so if anybody's going first, it's gonna be him. Nat might be with them, but I don't really see Nat joining the cannibals. So if I had to guess, she's off with Travis somewhere, probably still looking for Javi. Speaking of Javi, I think at some point, if he's still alive, he's gonna join Lottie's cult and maybe become some type of enforcer. And my guess is that if he's still alive in the future, then he's the one who killed Travis, maybe out of some sense of loyalty, because maybe Travis was in the cult at one point and he backed out. So Lottie tasked Javi with tracking him down and killing him again, out of maybe some "you're with me or you're with him" kind of thing. So I could definitely see that happening. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jessica is the one who sold Travis out, because she managed to track him down, and we know Jessica is she's about the bag. She's about getting paid. That's her whole MO. So if she tracked down Travis, that would factor into, I guess, how Lottie found him, if she got that information from Jessica. And if you're wondering, well, how does Lottie have all this reach? It's established, I think, within episode 1 that she's rich and her parents are stacked. So if she went missing in the wilderness for 19 months, maybe when she got back, you know, her parents weren't alive anymore, or maybe they got into some sort of accident. So she would inherit, you know, all of their wealth, and that's how she's got all this reach. That's how she's making all these Machiavellian moves, because she's got the resources to pull it off. Keela and Mari, they don't have a lot of screen time or a lot of lines, so it wouldn't surprise me if Akila ends up getting killed by the cannibals at some point. And Mari, I'm pretty sure that Mari is Pit Girl from episode 1. Her build matches, her skin tone matches, her hair color matches. That's who I'd put my money on as Pit Girl. Unless it was just some background character who didn't mean anything. But that shot of the necklace, I don't think that was for nothing. The Yellowjackets aren't the kind of people who just throw in something for nothing. I said they like the mundane, but that's not a mundane thing. So at some point, I think she does get that necklace. I forgot who had it originally, but there's definitely some sort of significance there. So Mari and Akila dead, barbecued. With Lord of the Flies being such an inspiration for the show, it wouldn't surprise me if at some point all the survivors get splintered into 2 different factions. You know, the cannibals and the non-cannibals, and maybe the cannibals are systematically hunting the non-cannibals down, and they end up in some sort of like pseudo civil war kind of situation. I think that's a real possibility there. And also, I don't think Jackie's dead. She might very well be. She might come back as like a ghost or specter or something, but I feel like Ella Prunell is too talented to just throw away after 1 season, especially considering she's the one over the majority of the marketing. I think it would be weird to kill her off just after 1 season on some Ned Stark type shit, but we'll see. Maybe they'll use her to explore the spiritual or ghost aspect of the show. Speaking of ghost, I have a theory about that and how it all factors into what's going on with Ty. Okay, it's kind of long, so hear me out. It's evident from the jump that Lottie has some sort of sixth sense when it comes to the paranormal and the supernatural, especially once she runs out of meds. It's very clear that something is going on in these woods. We know that the plane went down over Canada, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that the skeleton they found was a French-Canadian guy, right? So when they do the seance, because of how susceptible Lottie is to the supernatural, it could have made her a target of the spirit or whatever of this French guy, and maybe that's what started her possession, which would explain why she starts speaking fluent French all of a sudden. And if Jackie's dream is any indication, there are multiple spirits running around this forest, meaning that if you die there, your spirit sort of gets stuck there, which is why she saw Laura Lee during her dream. And that dream itself was weird because it was framed like it was Shauna's dream, but it was from the perspective of Jackie, so I don't know if they were both seeing it or if it was just one or the other, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But of the spirits that are there, I think somehow, some way, one of them got into Ty, and that's what turned her into the lady in the tree. Because she's the skeptic and she always tries to give a logical explanation for everything, maybe that's what makes her not as susceptible to the spirits. So the only way this thing can really, move her around and control her is to get her while she's sleeping, hence the sleepwalking. And it very well could be that subconsciously she knows that something's wrong or that something's in her. So to try to snap herself out of it, maybe that's why she eats dirt. Maybe that's why she bites her hands. She's trying to trigger herself out of it. She's trying to trigger herself into waking up. And of course, as we see in the future, she's still having these problems. So it's very possible that this thing is still inside of her and never left. And through the passage of time is gaining more and more power and influencing her to do things she wouldn't do. Like, she essentially gives up her family to continue her political campaign. And I don't think she would risk the relationship with her son and her wife just to be a senator, even though she is a very goal-oriented person. It just doesn't seem like something she would do. So this thing's got her, and between Ty, Lottie, the cult, I think whatever this entity is, or whatever these entities are, it has a goal, and its goal is to spread. It's to infect as many people as possible. We know it operates through blood sacrifice and offerings, so it's looking to get into as many people as possible. It may have been isolated to the forest, and maybe that French Canadian guy figured out how to contain it there, but because of the survivors, because of the Yellowjackets, it made its way back to civilization, and it's looking to cast a wider net, if you will. Cults can be very much like religions, and what do you get when you combine religion with political power? You know what I mean? Like, just imagine if some crazy woman just gained a whole lot of political power all at once and used her sway to try to spread these cult-like ideas. Like, could you imagine if that happened in real life? Oh my god. And my final theory, they're gonna eat that goddamn baby. I'm kidding. Well, we'll see. So can Yellowjackets beat the mystery box curse? Yes. Now, will it? We don't know yet. We'll have to see. We don't know for sure. It's trending in the right direction, but all we know for sure right now is that season 2 is coming, and we are at the point of no return. Well, damn, this was longer than I thought it was gonna be, but I had such a blast watching the show and going over my theories, but I want to hear yours, so leave a comment and let me know where you think the story is going, who lives, who dies, give me what you got. If you like the video and you want to see me do a season 2 finale update, make sure you like and subscribe so we can spread the good word of Lottie's cult, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm Josh Fleeks. Till next time, y'all be easy.